welcome to all of you. My talk today is about Agile Fearless Leadership. I will be soon going through what is roughly the content. Just where I'm coming from, this is my company. These are two founders. Now we have also a third person currently working here in Germany in a huge insurance institution. I'm currently also working in Germany with a company called Flixbus, helping in their agile transformation. We have long experience in different kind of industries and also 14 years at Nokia. And we are, let's say that in our consultation, we draw a lot from large-scale Scrum, also called LESS. Okay, this is roughly what I'm going to talk about. I will introduce you the pattern of coordination chaos. You might find it very familiar. Then I'll talk briefly about why Nokia mobile phone failed, how the seeds of destruction were sown 20 years before the actual failure. Then a question, is it relevant for you? Just by some, well, some models. And then I try to mostly talk about actionable fearless leadership, which is what you practically do when you try to change the culture, change the mindset. And last, I try to have time to go to some examples how to do that in practice. Well, let's go on. And now, what is coordination chaos?
Is your organization stuck? You have many parallel projects ongoing, but nothing moves. Everyone is waiting for information, resources, or decisions. You spend your time in endless meetings, planning, and rework. You are experiencing coordination chaos. But how did you get there? Here we have Dan. He's heading a fast-growing software-based business. The company is growing using common sense. Everyone focuses on their specialty because that's what they were hired to do. And it seems efficient. Talented, enthusiastic people just make it work. The success is based on the informal communication network. Specialization works, and it becomes the unquestioned norm. So whenever there is a problem, a new kind of specialist is hired or nominated. The number of specialists keeps increasing, and the complexity grows. In order to get things done, the company now hires a coordination specialist. Nina is the project manager. The business grows. More customers, more products, more specialists, more coordinators. The project managers, now headed by Nina, somehow pull it together. They become the heroes who squeeze value out of the messy organization. But the more the organization grows, the more chaotic it gets. Nina's project managers use the best processes and tools, but are not able to create results like before. The key people are torn between several projects. They are working days, nights, weekends, and holidays. They are burning out. Meanwhile, some other specialists are idling because their specialty is not needed at the moment. Experienced people start to leave. The organization has become too complex to be coordinated. The top management sits down to figure it out. Resources are not optimally allocated. The people should focus more on the projects and less on other stuff. We have to tighten the ship, clarify the roles and responsibilities, define detailed processes, measure and reward individual performance. This is what management consultants advise. Unfortunately, the management action breaks the informal knowledge sharing network, and things get even messier. More control and more bureaucrats, but less outcome. The company becomes slow and expensive compared to emerging rivals. The top management tries to find another solution. We still have a strong customer base, but the new competitors eat our profit margin. People are not productive and projects have become slow. We have tried everything, but we are powerless in improving the situation. Let's outsource the problem to a contractor specialized in providing resources. We can then control the contractor by commercial agreements. Nina has studied some Lean and Agile. She disagrees with the management plan. Dan sees the challenges with outsourcing. The problem is not about people. It is the system. Outsourcing the leadership problem would complicate things even more. But just using lean and agile best practices to improve the coordination does not solve the root cause, which is the over-specialization of the people and fragmentation of the organization. Dan sees the light. We need to think completely differently. The problem is our old thinking, where others think and others do. Others decide and others coordinate. Some companies have taken another path. They trust in customer-oriented learning and cross-functional teams. Project managers are not coordinating plans and resources. The business decision-making is fast and close to the teams. This is possible for large corporations when the top management makes the suitable organizational design and truly supports the learning. There will be discovery, innovation, and business agility. It is motivating and builds a workplace where people stay and grow. Food for thought was provided by GoSee. More details at coordinationchaos.com.
Okay, there's quite some more points about this coordination chaos. And to make it brief, this is what happened to Nokia mobile phones. And it was Nokia mobile phones. Nokia Networks is still going on strong. And there was this opportunity, aggressively grab that opportunities and just make it work. And 20 years later, there was a tough situation, and Nokia had actually developed coordination chaos. This video was created by us based on our frustration about working 14 years in Nokia, so we know what we are talking about. And at this moment, also the Nokia management, they were saying, okay, you just make it happen. And that was causing, it was management by fear, and it has some very bad side effects like superficial decision making and actually failing to respond to competition. And there's an extremely good research about that phenomenon made by these guys. They had 3 interview rounds with 76 senior managers, and they came out with roughly the following story. And this is, by the way, research that can be found in the internet, and it's worth reading. Okay, so first, top management was afraid of the competition. And they said, we take care of the business. You, organization, middle managers, you just make what we tell you to do. So the middle management was afraid of the top management, and they played nice guy. Okay, you get what you want. They directly lied to the top management about the real situation. And the top management was alienated from the middle management, so they couldn't assess the situation. And on top of that, the top management decided to to scatter the development resources. They made huge amount of different models. They made a lot of rework while building those new models, so they were wasting resources. And it was not in the research, but my question was that when this happened year after year, release by release, then why didn't the top management stop and think, is there any other way to do it? Okay, so the research is really stressing the management by fear. And there's something related to the coordination chaos and management by fear. It's a property of the system. It's not because of an individual. And why? Paranoia. If we have a siloed, fragmented organization, I don't know what those guys are doing. I'm afraid that they will, take my job or whatever. And if I am the top manager, and this is actually what Jorma Ollila said, if I don't know, I only know that the organization doesn't deliver, but I don't know what is really going on there. What can I do? There's a thick layer of different middle managers, all kind of coordinators in between. What can I do? Then there's someone who's coming to me and saying, I'll fix it. So I say, okay, please try out. So the management has no other tool except to put more pressure to the organization. And this is a property of fragmented organization, coordination chaos. And, Winfred Taylor was mentioned already in the previous presentation. He had good intentions, how wise managers design a system where people can work, but no one has actually been able to implement it, according to some researchers. And now I have a question to you. What would be Tayloristic organization nowadays? Others promise, others deliver. Have you seen it? Hand up if you have seen it. Okay, yes. Others plan, others execute, and so on. You have seen it. And then different tasks and roles inside the organization. You have project managers to coordinate. You have resource managers to solve the problem of resourcing, and so on. And then you have this. All these are real special roles inside organizations. Have you seen this kind of organizations? Yes? Okay, it's not enough. Then you have these hats. If you can no more hire special people, then you give them different hats for different problems. All right, so what is everyday experience like in this kind of organization? You have fragmented organization. Then I don't do things, you do other stuff. So I give some things into your work queue. So the organization is full of queues that are all full. And then everyone is busy doing their job and no one knows how the whole system works. So I'm only learning more in my narrow specialty. And then this goes on. And managers in this kind of organization, they are managing problems because they are the problem-solving specialists. I don't know enough in my narrow like developer role how the system works, so manager, please fix the system for me. I'm just putting impediments in your impediment backlog. So there's pressure typically in this kind of organization from top management. No time for real change, and this I love. Power and wisdom is always elsewhere, also for the top management. And it's a property of fragmented organization. All right, so actionable fearless leadership. I love this picture. It's from Elisabeth Henriksson, who is working for Pivotal. It's telling it all. And as a leader, you need to intervene. And I really hope that you're helping the running guy, not increasing something to the stone, which happens very easily. Okay, so fearless leaders, they intervene. And there's a counterforce. How much time, cash, and owner's trust do we have? We have only limited time. Okay, then a few words about fear, the nature's response to risk management. So there's individual fear. I'm afraid of being excluded from the tribe, and I'm afraid of having conflict with other people. And we have the collective fear. I'm afraid that the company will die, and my job will be gone. I'm afraid that the company will kind of dissolve, we can't agree. So I'm afraid of external conflict. So avoid conflict. And that is causing a lot of problems, because if I'm avoiding to find out why we disagree, we will become alienated, fragmented, we don't talk, we don't cooperate. So what is the solution to avoiding or the opposite of conflict avoidance? A moment of thinking for you. What would it be? Okay. For example, curiosity. Genuine curiosity, or greed to learn, something that I really want to find out what is the reason for this disagreement. All right, so fearless leaders, they want to learn the reason of different problems or disagreements. And they are using curiosity for that. So let's go on. More about learning. So we have a company which is making money because something that we produce is valued. And it's because we have this technical capability and we can make good decisions. And because we want to learn, we have... Now, there's a counterforce, which is coordination chaos, complexity, friction. And in this notation, systems thinking notation, an arrow, blue is good. Arrow means it's a cause and effect relationship. Red means bad, It's just for helping you to understand the thinking behind. And an arrow, I mean, a circle means that it's an opposite. So friction is reducing the valued outcome. Okay, then we have feedback, and we really invest time in learning from the feedback. This is by delay improving the technical capability and immediately also helping to make better decisions or faster. And these are reinforcing loops, so they make the things work better, and the complexity is the counterforce. All right, so how can you get this kind of organization? You organize for learning, and that's the key thing. And fearless leadership is about organizing for learning. And when you organize like this, you have all these good counterforces reducing this complexity and friction. And we have here some reinforcing loops, even more reducing the friction and or complexity and coordination chaos. And then there's some reality. We want to grow, but we have not enough of competent people available. C means constraint. So we need to hire some people who are not yet competent. But we trust in learning. So by time, we onboard those people and they will become skilled and they can contribute. Unfortunately, our time was running out or something happened, and now we have Tayloristic thinking in the management. And these are really putting pressure to this organizing for learning, trust in learning. So instead we have narrow roles and responsibilities, the Tayloristic thinking, which means that these could cause, good arrows disappear. Instead we have this batch and queue organization. And this is a vicious circle, which will work if we have a lot of coordinators, project managers and so on. This is, in this kind of organization, the number of coordinators is increasing and they are actually creating the output. And unfortunately, this kind of confusion caused by more and more people who have narrow responsibilities, all the queues full, is reducing our ability to make good decisions. And it's also increasing the coordination chaos, and investment in coordination is typically competing with the investment to learning. So what will happen that the learning will have less emphasis and coordination has more emphasis. So this is how I think the coordination chaos is removing learning from the organization, just little by local optimization. All right, so fearless leaders need to understand how the system works. You need to think yourself. Okay, and then what are the practical things that you really want to implement? One is that when you organize for learning, you organize for customer-oriented learning. Immediate work with customers so that the teams or a bit bigger organization, they can deliver some full features or full product for users. So they have authority and autonomy to work with the customers. And you have immediate feedback from the product, like continuous integration, another dimension of feedback. And the third dimension of feedback is to learn to understand how the system works, and that is done by reflecting what is really happening with individuals, teams, and the whole system. So 3 different dimensions, and this is really the concrete practical thing that you need to build in the organization. Mechanisms for these feedbacks. And with large-scale Scrum terminology, it would be feature teams working with full product, integrate continuously and do continuous improvement. So actually making this continuous improvement to happen is a huge task. It's not very easy and simple. And this is a natural reaction. All those I mentioned previously, they are big investments. They are changing the power structures and so on. All right, so fearless leaders, they build feedback mechanisms in the organization. They are not doing the feedback themselves. Then just a brief mention to a research that Google was repeating. There's a lot of older research also that is only stating that psychological safety is the most important factor in making teams work well. Now, I don't go deeper this. You can Google and find out this research. Okay, yet another topic about leaders. How leaders are themselves has a huge impact into the organization. If you look to the attachment theory in psychology, you find out some things about this. I recommend to see a TED Talk by this person to be introduced into the topic how when my secure base is in condition, it is helping me to bond with you, other people, and that is creating the basis for safety in the organization. All right, so create safety by demonstrating secure base. Would you excuse me to use some of the question and answers time to get this finished because we had some trouble. All right, so next thing, you remember this is what it is like to work in a fragmented organization. So how to reverse this? I like the background thinking in large-scale Scrum a lot. It is worth looking. There are all kind of technical details and also this kind of sequence for agile transformation explained. So what you need to do first is to change your thinking, really to learn how things are really doing in your organization. What would be the unthinkable, another solution, unthinkable in the sense that the current discourse of the organization, the current vocabulary of the organization is not able to talk about things that are outside the known. So it takes some effort to really understand what it could be. And then you can also find the path. So change thinking, fearless leadership, and deliberate learning. Deliberate now here refers to the research that was stating that if you want to master something, you need to have 10,000 hours of deliberate practice. So in a similar way, you want to be deliberate in your learning. And then you organize for customer-centric learning. You get integrated organization, start working. When you have integrated, for example, teams close to the customers, you don't batch and queue, you solve things immediately, things start to flow, and you get this kind of better circle, not a vicious circle. And only when you have these things in place, you are gradually able to work as a learning organization or do continuous improvement. Okay, and now how to actually build the reflection capability into the organization. This bar refers to a researcher called Nonaka, who actually is the same person who coined the word Scrum in '86 in his research. He was studying knowledge-creating companies and realized that all knowledge-creating companies have a place where people meet and talk. They come from different locations, share information, and create new knowledge. So they bring up from their experiences, observations, details. You introduce some new learning from outside. You introduce good leadership and structure. You analyze how your organization is actually doing. And then you are able to decide what to do. And these people bring back a changed identity, understanding experiments, and they radiate their new existence in their normal workplace. And the top management also needs to be a fearless leader and participate in this process and sponsor. This is not a hobby. It's very deliberate and needs the support of the top management. What would be a better place to maintain the improvement backlog of the organization? I don't know what would be. I mean, this would be a perfect place to have all these bigger systemic impediments escalated and then returning systemic improvements back to the organization. And the third pattern I wanted to introduce is the mountain of competence in Agile, coaching, and leading people in change, or maybe Agile in general. Basic learning, basic skills for everyone. Then people with very diverse roles increase their skills in leading people and Agile in general, and they have this deliberate learning for them. And then there most probably needs to be some people in the beginning who are leading the transformation and having some experience, enough experience, who would be able to create knowledge. And this is the place for learning. It is there. And of course, learning is helping people to climb the competence mountain, and other people are helping others by training and coaching. And this is not a role. It's real hard work actually to learn something. And then about this deliberate learning, some kind of rough number is that 5 to 10 days intensive learning is needed to get to this middle level, and learning about how your own organization really works. And when about 10% of people are about this level, then your transformation is kind of on the safe side. You have changed the habits, how you develop your organization, and developed enough understanding how things really are. And then finally, just some words about this, how you can arrange this deliberate learning. 5 to 10 days, 10% of people, all kind of people, not only specialized, over-specialized Agile coaches. And this is only the initiation of this work. And how to arrange this kind of 5 to 10 days. The most important thing is that you learn by reflecting about individual, group, and organizational behavior in the training to understand what is really going on. It is not just flooding some new fancy things on people. And this is something how the structure typically looks like. And I want to contrast this to an anti-pattern. Quite often I see that you have specialists, really high-level specialists coming in, training people and going away. And this kind of thing doesn't scale. And typically in smaller organizations, this is okay. The mass of people is learning, but if you have bigger organizations, then this gap is really dangerous. Any questions?
On your perception, who could be, or which company could be the next Nokia, one of the famous one? Do you have any guess?
I don't really have so good visibility on the all upcoming companies, and so inside Finland, some game companies have had success, but they are not involving so huge amount of people as Nokia. So I think Nokia was quite exceptional. Of course, Huawei has been coming up really fast because it was really a challenger around 2000, and now it is, I think, the number one in telecom infrastructure. And they might have some symptoms of coordination chaos also, I would imagine.
Thank you.
perhaps you said it in the beginning, do you think Nokia would have had the time to really change the organization from within? So train people, change people and all that stuff? Or do you think the only chance would have been to set up a different Nokia aside where they would have, let's say, developed new products, the smartphone, whatever? What do you think?
Nokia, they had several opportunities to do both of those solutions. And they tried it to a small extent, but the same fear that I was mentioning was also causing them to fear that their own new product would cannibalize the old cash cow, so instead they let the competitors to cannibalize it. It would have been possible to, as I said, to do both, to change the culture. One annoying story about this is that Nokia created those kind of management wish values around 95 or so. And one of those values was avoiding complacency. And then they recreated those values and removed this avoid complacency. And at least to me, the management communication those times was very complacent about the market. And so it was far from humble. All right, thank you.